comments to themselves and not be aggressive. It would be really appreciated because we are not here to intimidate each other, right? We are here to put forward our points in a competitive manner. And we are not here to outshine it. I think the whole idea is that you are here putting forward your points and giving the audience also a chance to think on this subject, isn't it? So before the judges take their call, we'll just take a short break and then kind of come to the next two teams.
Bhoria, Akshat Chhajjar, speaking for the motion, and team number 4, represented by Joy Nath, Akansha Mishra, Mrinalini Goyal, and Prakhar Rathi, speaking against the motion.
Also be sending out certificates to the schools. So be patient and also take in the ambience, see what the others are having to say. There's a lot to learn about this format of debating. Maybe you can pick up a few points and maybe you can pick up a few cues from the debating that goes on today. And I encourage you to come back tomorrow and the day after just to check out exactly what is the level of the competition that is on. Yeah.
Before I begin, I want to quote APJ Abdul.
Your name, please.
I'm quoted it.
No, we need the name of
I'm representing VP Swasanth right now.
your name.
Dhruv Bhoria.
You start this time after you.
My name is Dhruv Bhoria. Before I begin, I want to quote APJ Abdul Kalam. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dhruv Bhoria, and I am representing DPS Vasant College. I will be speaking on free and compulsory education, and I am for the motion. Before I begin, let's just imagine, in this entire room, every one of us, there is one person who has the cure of cancer in his mind. However, he is not rich. So what will happen? Will we let millions of people go and kill themselves because one person could not receive proper education? And this does not go down to one level. This goes down to many, many levels. Now, what is the need for free education? When I say this, when free education comes in, I just remember one man, Sri Vivekananda. He once said, if the poor boy cannot go to education, education should go to the poor boy. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also quote something about Sanskrit, in which one of the oldest quotes, it says that our mind is like a lock. And to open that lock, you need patience, perseverance, poise, as well, and the most important things of all, education. I would also like to talk about compulsory education. The team before us was just talking about it. So I just want to sum it up in one thing. I don't know how to speak A, B, C, D. How do you expect me to make sentences? What is funny is, people, rather than being pessimist, are being too realist. And sometimes that edges toward pessimism. Another point that I want to say is that I'm a very truthful person. I come from a private school. My fees recently was increased and then rolled back. I celebrated when it was rolled back. But it was not because the money went down, but it was because the right thing won. At the end of the day, we need to look that education is like a whiff of scent, like a ray of light. It will reach the seeker, to whom it is the most important. No matter which situation they are stuck in, they will be educated. Now, as I speak about free and compulsory education, another thing comes into my mind. We blame India for everything. We lost a match, it's Virat Kohli's fault. We are not doing well in the global sector, it's the government's fault. However, I do want to salute my Indian constitution and my lawmakers. Because in 2009, they created RTE, or as they call it, the right to education. It was one of the most bold steps and the best steps that I've ever seen our country take. It will be a step whereby which every one of us will benefit in the long run. Now let me explain it. Kids from the ages to 6 to 14 get education for free and it's compulsory to attend. Now no longer are the days when kids still work in old little shops in which old uncles say, "Do it well, Chotu." At the end of the day, I want to say that you can pursue whatever you want after 14 years, but you need to get the basic crux of things. That's why compulsory education should be there. And lastly, and most importantly, I want to ask my dear opposition that before you start alligating things on me and shoving data on my face, I want to ask you about morality. So, morality. And henceforth, I also want to ask you people that if a kid has got a brilliant mind, if he has got the mind to set examples for others, will we just simply stop him because he was poor? I beg to differ. I beg to differ here because at the end of the day, it's us and us only who will move this race ahead. And finally, I want to ask this, that when we get closed up and we just go back psychologically and think that, if we think psychologically that, hey, I can't afford it, so let's just humble back, let's just go back and not go into the place where I can't afford it. And we just simply form a ghetto. Should we do that? Should we stop and stall development just because at the end of the day I don't have money? Thank you very much. I hope you people will listen and think about what I just said and imbibe a bit of it. Thank you.
First speaker from the opposition team.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Akanksha Mishra. Now, I do not know if I should eat dirt or not. I do not know who the person standing behind the silverish thing that hangs on the wall is. I do not know if pulling someone's hair is funny or painful. But I do know that when I grow up, I'll have to go to school. I'll be forced to go to a place where I'll be forced to defecate in the open and where I will be taught that fossil fuels are in fact household waste. A very good morning, one and all, once again. We, the opposition, are here today to argue against free and compulsory education. Now, since the proposition failed to provide us with a definition, I would like, on the basis of opposition, I would like to do that. We define the topic as school education, which is free to all and is compulsory to enroll into, attend, and complete. As the first speaker, my arguments will have three major points. The second speaker will be extending my arguments and introduce his. The third speaker will rebut the proposition and sum up our team case. Now, first of all, schooling often has noxious repercussions. It puts the students under immense pressure. According to a country-wide survey conducted in 2012, approximately 68% of Indian children experience stress in school due to academic pressure. Now, the Hindu reports that academic pressure is one of the leading causes of suicide, which is the second leading cause of death among kids aged 12 to 18. My second argument is against free education tonight. According to Forbes, taxpayers spend an average of $11,000 per pupil in public school. And the worst part is that this exorbitant price is completely futile. The condition of public school and kids in public school is abysmal. About 11% of government schools in India, according to the UNICEF reports, do not have toilets. 20% of them do not have clean drinking water. The midday meals have also been a fiasco. The food is sold in markets and the kids get a bare minimum amount of food. Also, due to the abhorrent quality of food, 23 kids in Bihar got killed. Now, I would like to ask the proposition, is this moral? And this is not even the end. The 7th annual status of education report carried out by non-profit group Pratham shows that in public schools, the quality of learning is getting worse. The report found that only 57.5% of children in public school, grades 1 to 2, can recognize numbers 1 to 9. Only 29.9% of India's class 3 kids can solve two-digit subtraction, compared with 36.3% in 2010. Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned the statistics given by Pratham, saying that 57% of the people in government schools, I can get on the question, right? 57% of the students in the government schools from grade 1 to 2 cannot add numbers. Isn't it better than 0%? Isn't it better than no one being even in those schools and knowing what even numbers are?
Absolutely not. Wrong education is not better than less education. Now, continuing with my speech, school attendance levels have also dropped by 3.5%. Now, the enrollment ratio has increased, but the quality of education received in free schools has decreased alarmingly. Is this morality? It's not just the fault of dilapidated infrastructure though, but also of the supervised teachers that are present in public schools. A science teacher of a public school in Jammu and Kashmir with BN and MA degrees defined fossil fuels as waste collected from households. School attendance also comes with staggering opportunity costs. A typical student spends more than 15,000 hours in school over the course of 13 years. Think of the opportunities the kid would have received had he been homeschooled. According to The Atlantic, homeschool students score above average on achievement tests regardless of their parents' level of formal education or their family's household income. In the end, I like to say that free schooling, which I do not believe is appropriate schooling at all, forces the majority of the population to pay services that it does not get. And no one actually owes anyone an education. And for what?
Last 30 seconds.
So that kids can spell apple as EPPL, so that girls don't get separate washrooms in school, so that kids whose only crime is eating food provided by the schools die. Had education not been compulsory, 23 kids in Bihar would still be alive, and so would 46 mothers and fathers. Thank you.
I'm Shivangi Tomar. So first let me differentiate between free education and compulsory education and make the opposition understand that compulsory education cannot take place if the education is not free. Now, according to the Malala Swan statistics, to provide free education to the students of the poor countries, $32 million are required for all students of all poor countries. Walmart's 1 week revenue is $9.5 billion per week. Now tell me, if I get it that there are many countries who do not have enough resources to fund the education, but there are other investors across the globe who can help and fund the education in the poor countries, because in the end the entire concept is to move towards global understanding in a global world where everybody could work towards a better economy for the entire world. Also, now let's talk about why education should be compulsory. So let me tell you.
Yeah, so let us consider a situation where everybody gets free education, everybody graduates from college, and let's say, but a country like India does not have enough money to also create jobs. So those people migrate to different countries. So isn't that a waste of resources for all the students we have done? For all the students, 50 to 70 million students in India.
Can I ask for a clarification? So graduate from a college, when you're talking about free schooling right now, we're just talking about free schooling till 12th grade. And after that, it's the person's choice whether they wish to pursue for higher education or not. And even if whatever I was talking about the global world, right? Because in the end, the entire concept is for us to all be together and work towards a better economy for the entire world. Now, when we say that free education for everybody, then you know that it will also not only promote the economy, but also the equality. Because a lot of students would be there from different castes, different religions, who would be studying together, socializing and getting to know about each other's culture. Now, when I talk about compulsory education,
Yes. Now, since the affluent sections of the society receive better education and the poor ones have to be content with improper education, do you really think that it will reduce the gap between the rich and the poor and somehow promote equality?
ma'am, I do not think that you have understood the agenda. It is free and compulsory schooling for all students across the world. So everybody would be studying together as a matter of fact. Now when I talk about compulsory education, so let me give you some statistics. Women who are less educated are having more children, on an average 2.5 children over the course of their lifetime when compared to more educated women. 53% of the world's out-of-school children are girls and 2/3 illiterate people are the world of women. Ma'am, it's not only about the economy but providing the basic education to children would help the society as a whole. And as you talked about separate washrooms and everything in public schools, do you realize the fact that for somebody who does not even have a proper washroom at their home and have to go somewhere else, for them even having one washroom is good? And as my colleagues mentioned, that isn't having 50%, at least having 50% people who can do proper subtraction better than having no people at all?
Joynath. Good morning to all those present here. I am here to present my views against the motion of the House, school education should be made free and compulsory all over the world. Well, I feel that making school education free would only worsen the situation. First of all, I would like to put forth the point that if anything is free, its quality automatically degrades, and my fellow counterparts on the proposition may agree to this point. So, in our partially free government schools, the situation is not so well, if you would think. I remember the proposition quoted Vivekananda. Now, if Vivekananda would come alive by some miracle at this point of time, he would not even suggest that these government schools are very good. So, according to a recent survey conducted in 780 government schools across 13 Indian states, key facilities that included toilets and clean drinking water were mostly found missing or in poor condition, as quoted by the first speaker of our opposition. Less than 5% of schools have all the 9 facilities mentioned in the RTE. So now over 30% of schools have no toilet, and this results in more dropout rate of girls, and over 60% had no playgrounds.
Point of information.
Right. And this shows why India has so much problems with health and fitness. Another survey in 2007 in rural India across 16,000 villages showed class enrollment was high, but the quality of education. Rather, I would put what the children were learning was very limited. They did not know, even a 5th grader did not know how to read.
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
I would like to say something in Sanskrit here. Yasho na vigyan tapo na dhyan. Gyan na shashu na gano na dhan. Te mrityu lok bhavubhi bhuta manushya rupen mriga sharanti. If you didn't understand that, I'll explain. That if a human being does not have knowledge, he does not have the power to sacrifice, put in patience and have good character, he's equivalent to an animal living in this world. So are you telling me that rather than, letting these kids get education and get a bit more better and finally learn that yes, this thing is wrong? Because currently you are saying that toilets and things are...
15 to 20 seconds, including on this.
So are you saying that I should not even help them? I should let them be?
So the question you put forth was a slok in Sanskrit. So I would like to say that if we put forth the situation that you said that only one toilet is sufficient for a school, you are saying that we provide free education but we do not provide the complete thing. We just provide half the package. So now that's, I would think that's satisfactory for me to answer that question.
Point of information.
Not granted. Some government schools exist only on paper. Their infrastructure is partially or completely ruined. Low attendance to high dropout rates form the emphasis of government schools. Now if I move on to the quality of teachers, well, it would form a whole comedy show. Many teachers do not know how anything. Every single spellings in a week of a day were asked, and the teacher spells Sunday as S-U-N-D-I-E. This is what the children in our country are learning. The number of days in a year, 300. Well, the 65 days were eaten by the teacher. In 2000, at least 33.2% of children in class 2nd in government schools could not perform basic maths. As pointed out by the earlier proposition that some skill sets are required, this is the skill sets that we are providing to our children in the name of partially free education. I shudder to think what will happen when we make the education free. This is the state of a partially free school of government. So I think that the nominal fee charged by the government is quite right, so that still this partial education can help the child get a little job. And if we provide a little of the fees increase and students provide quality education, I think that this would make India a better country and a better employment source for the whole world. Thank you.
Alright, firstly, the very fact that the opposition here is denying most of the questions being asked by the proposition suggests that they just know what they're speaking. They cannot really back what they want to say. They cannot really back what exactly is meant by their points. Also, the point made by the first speaker of opposition, school pressure. Do you realize that point is actually similar to the whims by a rich kid who does not eat for a day because she does not get what she wanted? Do you realize that if the children do not undergo the school pressure that they have, they will not survive in this world? Are you saying, when you say that people should not go to schools because there is a lot of school pressure, do you realize that later in their life they will have to work, have to work the whole day, they will have to work? Those students who haven't even been taught anything, they don't have any skills, they will have to make do whatever they know. They will have to make do by doing minimal jobs which require so much hard work. Also, now talking about the quality of education. Now here you mentioned stats.
Point of information.
Yeah.
You're talking about that children cannot work without pressure from the school. Well, should I mention all the suicide cases that we have that are there because of the so-called school pressure?
Okay. Okay, I'll ask you to first compare the suicide cases of school children to the suicide cases of the farmers. Just take the statistics. All right. Now talking about the quality of education. You mentioned, firstly, I was like seriously disappointed with the fact that you were not simply able to answer that question. 57, you yourself stated that 57% of the students, only 57% of the students can do math properly. Do you realize that is, and properly, you said properly. However, do you realize that it is obviously better than 0%? It is obviously better than no one in going to school. Also coming to good examples, as people earlier mentioned that we just know how to we just know how to criticize. Let's say good examples. There's a Jawahar Navar Vidyalaya where 238 out of 251 students recently went into IIT. 238, that is almost 90%. Do you realize? And this is a government school. This is the government school where the fee is nominal if not free. Yeah. Alright. Now talking about the resources. Where will the poor countries get the resources they would need to provide free education? As my colleague earlier mentioned that it only takes $36 million to provide free education to all the poor countries, which is and in comparison to that, Walmart earns 9.5 billion. Exactly. We are talking about alright.
Yeah, you mentioned how a developing country can afford the free education. When you just said that about the resources, America, the greatest economy in the world, is projected to be under debt if it makes education free. When Bernie Sanders declared he'll make education free, the economists all over the world criticized him because even a country like America cannot withstand this pressure. What do you have to say for that?
All right. Firstly, I never said that developed countries, I never even mentioned developed countries. I just compared the amount of revenue, the amount of money that it will take to provide free education to the amount of money that is being earned by private contractors, private companies. Right. Now, as several people mentioned the examples of countries from Africa which do not have even resources to have food, to provide food to their citizens. Now, we all know that today we are moving toward a global world. Today people have countries have foreign relations so that they can trade in firearms. Why can't they trade in education? Why can't developed countries provide loans to underdeveloped countries for education instead of providing them firearms to fight their neighbors? Today we are moving towards a peaceful world, and I want to say that if you want to develop, we need to stop criticizing and look toward an egalitarian world. We need to look forward to something instead of criticizing what we've already done. Right? Alright. Hence I rest my case.
My name is Mrinalini Goyal. Now, both the previous speakers, the speaker 1 and the speaker 2 of the opposition, have already stated all sorts of statistics. So let me simply take you down the imagination lane. Let me take you to a world where education is free and compulsory. In this world, there was a girl. There was a girl who did not want to go to school because she was terribly bullied. She wanted to be homeschooled. She was comfortable with this, but she could not do so because the education was compulsory and she did not have a choice. And in this world was also a boy who did not want to take his studies seriously because he knew that education is free and he's not credible to answer the people who will ask him, why aren't you studying? It's not his responsibility to own up to them. Education is an opportunity. It is not something that can be forcefully thrust upon you. Education is the key to success. But what if I don't want to be obligated with that key? The society very easily has stereotypes and prejudices which kill all of our dreams.
Point of information.
Yes?
Ma'am, I don't understand why are you equating school with education? Don't you think methods such as homeschooling, just learning about music or just learning, like any sort of learning is education? Why are you equating education with just school? There are many aspects to it.
Sir, why don't you read the topic again? It says compulsory schooling, not compulsory education. Maybe we can talk later about it.
Point of information.
Will you please allow me to make my point, then we can go ahead with that as well. Yeah, so I was talking about I don't want to be obligated with the key to success. My aspirations may be to become a singer, my aspirations may be to become a dancer, but then society thrusts upon me this obligation of studying. They tell me at the end of every March and September month to show my report card, and if I'm not able to do so, I'm termed as a duffer. Are my skills just limited to that report card that is thrust upon me because of your compulsory education? Moreover, kids cannot be forced to study. We all know that. Come on, and when kids are forced to study, we definitely retaliate against it. And all of us here are students from 11th and 12th. We know how we retaliate against it by simply bunking classes and bunking schools and disrespecting teachers. We all are pretty familiar with it. Education is something that is voluntary. If a child wants to study,
Point of information.
Yes.
Madam, you do know, right, that they offer for kids who are not comfortable with subjects like, for example, SST or mathematics, they offer subjects that may be loving for the other people like arts or music. And you're talking about class 11th and 12th, right? You get an option. You get to choose whether you want PCMB, you want arts, or you want commerce.
Okay, so till 11th, I fail continuously in 5th, I fail continuously in 6th, somehow I drag myself to 11th, and then finally I get the choice.
You forgot about class 9th, 10th, 8th, all of these classes.
Sir, if you don't have a valid question other than telling me about all the classes I have missed, maybe you should please be quiet. Moreover, I would also like to mention that not everyone finds their interests in books. Some of us have an open mind and we have been forcefully thrust into this prison they so politely called compulsory education. Talking about free education, my fellow counterparts have told me about what all free education promotes. Now let me tell you about one more thing they missed. Free education also promotes laziness. Education being served on a silver platter will only distract the child from the idea of hard work and discipline. And come on, we all know in India we love free things and we do not respect them. You value things for which you pay. Only the hard-earned education is valued. And while we are on the topic of free education, I must not forget to mention the humongous pressure it exerts in the economy of a country. Now, the average child population of an average country is about 50 to 70 million. Providing each one of them with the apt resources of free education is not possible without, of course, sending the country into debt. I would like to state that their compulsory schooling is against the so-called democracy. But one must not be, we should provide a person with the right to education. We should not obligate them with education. There's a difference between right to education and there's a difference between forcing a person into education. We talk about rights, we talk about not restraining ourselves, and then we simply chain ourselves with these bondages of compulsory and free education. Thank you.
Now, through my reply speech, I would first like to tell the opposition that the point that they raised, that the comparison that they made between the number of deaths of farmers and the total number of deaths of students, how is that justified? Farmers die because they cannot sustain their family, whereas most of the suicides are caused by academic pressure. They are not related. Secondly, another speaker of the proposition mentioned that without the academic pressure of the school, the kid won't be able to survive in the world. Well, tell me something, how will the kid survive with the academic pressure when the suicide rates are so high? Also, as far as saluting the RTE is concerned, I also salute the RTE for providing education which is not up to the mark, for providing schools that do not have washrooms. And in fact, more kids get infected by dirty washrooms than they get with no washrooms. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, I'm Akshat and I'm giving the right speech now. Okay, I fail to understand why the opposition is again and again talking about the conventional schools that we have here. Don't you think there exist some special schools, and again that is part of school education as you mentioned, in which you don't have to provide a report card, in which you don't have to give exams, in which there are special provisions through which you can only study what you want and you can actually enjoy it. Okay, next, some people talked about schools being very redundant. I would like to ask them, in the very schools that they study in, don't they learn some special life skills other than what they learn in the subject periods? Don't they learn how to cope up in life? Don't they learn that what the reality of life is? And I'm sorry if that's what you're calling redundant. I don't think that this is the way to go about it. Next, someone mentioned that in some village schools, a child can't even solve a maths problem while going to school. Ma'am, do you seriously think that the child will be able to solve that problem without going to school? We need to realize that education is untapping the hidden potential of certain individuals who have been deprived of their right to education, whose only fault in this world was to be born in a poor environment where education was not very prevalent. And as far as the resource aspect of it is concerned, again taking up the Walmart example, we need only 0.05% of what Walmart earns. Are we saying that as a global community, we can't even collaborate and have just 0.05% of Walmart earns? I mean, this is totally absurd. I would like to say that this is totally possible, and if we put compulsory and free education on top of our priorities, I would like to say that it is providing free and compulsory education is as easy taking candy from a diabetic person who doesn't even need the candy. Thank you.